Good morning and welcome to This Week in Politics. My name is Dr Michael de Percy, Senior Lecturer in Political Science at the University of Canberra, and I'm standing in for the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Stephen Parker today. And today I'll be speaking with Professor Michelle Grattan, and we're going to find out about what's been happening in Australian politics this week. Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Michael.
Michelle, firstly, let's start with the Labor leadership. As we know, this is a major issue for the party at the moment following their election defeat. So this Sunday there'll be an announcement about who will be the winner. So how has the process been so far, do you think, particularly given that there's a new procedure for electing the leader of the Australian Labor Party?
This is the first time that Labor has had this system of 50-50 between the caucus and the membership at large to choose the leader. It's obviously a big break from the past, and it really has energised the party after the election. You'd expect normally after a defeat there'd just be a flopping of morale in the party, there'd be backbiting, arguing, post-mortems, but they've all been caught up in this new direct democracy, and that has eased the pain a great deal. Now, of course, the challenge after Sunday, when there's an announcement, is to try to keep this spirit alive, at least to some extent.
Do you think this new means of electing the federal leader of the party will remain? Do you think it's likely to be changed again in the future?
It will go to the National Conference, but I think that the basic structure will remain because the party membership is so enthusiastic about it. By the end of Thursday, you had 27,000 members having already voted, and the close is tonight. The last ballots will come in, and that's out of a membership of 43,000. So you just see the level of interest in this process. So I think that will remain. It may be that the National Conference will reconsider the part of the whole scheme which says that you need a 60% level of caucus to get a leadership spill. Now, some people think that if a leader has lost the support of half the caucus, then you should be able to have a spill. It's possible that that could be changed. Certainly there are some logistics about the ballot and how you get ballot papers back quickly that will need to be fine-tuned. There's a suggestion, for example, there should be electronic voting.
Right. Does this make it more difficult to have a leadership spill in the future?
Yes, it does, because it's a fairly big undertaking, obviously, and also because of the spill triggers. 60% for an opposition leader, 75% for a Prime Minister. So you wouldn't have had a spill against Julia Gillard, for example, earlier in this year. It's interesting that, of course, this is a legacy of Kevin Rudd. He proposed this leadership change immediately after he'd knocked off Julia Gillard.
Right. So what are the major challenges you think for the winner, for Sunday's winner, for the Labor Party as an opposition leader?
Maintaining unity in the party, moving on to being effective in terms of opposing the government, deciding with the party, of course, when things should be opposed or when that's simply obstruction and won't go down well with the public. Crafting a new vision, a way forward in policy terms for the party, all these things. Most immediately, his challenge will be allocating portfolios on his front bench. On Monday, the caucus will choose the front bench. It's now got back that right under these rules changes that came in just before the election, a right that Kevin Rudd originally took away and then said should come back. And the leader does the allocation of the actual jobs once he has the front bench.
And so we've heard from Clive Palmer this morning that his party wants to claim the same resources or similar resources to what the Greens currently receive. Now, apparently the Prime Minister has said that this won't happen, that there is a normal convention for minor parties. But Clive Palmer has suggested that no legislation will pass the Senate, of course, when the Senate reconvenes with the Palmer party taking that balance of power. But what do you think this means, and in particular the deal between the Palmer's United Party and the Motoring Party? What does this mean for the Abbott government?
I think that dealing with Clive Palmer will be quite difficult for Tony Abbott and his ministers, because he's a very unpredictable force, and he will have, if his Western Australian senator-elect is preserved in the recount that's going on there, he'll have 3 of his own senators, and he'll have the motoring gent as well, and that's a fair block, a block of 4, when the government will need, we're talking post mid-next year here when the new Senate comes in, it will need 6 of these crossbenchers to pass legislation. So Clive Palmer has a lot of power. I think that the argument over resources involves a bit of foot stamping. Clearly, Tony Abbott doesn't want to give in to this, because if he does, then it has all sorts of consequences. Firstly, he looks to be just capitulating to Clive Palmer's tantrum on the matter. But secondly, of course, it then has flow-on effects for other players in the Senate. So it's a difficult situation, but I think it's just a small part of his wider potential problem with the Palmerites.
So, also in the federal parliament, the entitlements and particularly for MPs has become an issue, and it's been reported in the media about various politicians and their claims. Is reform of this procedure necessary?
It is true that wherever you draw the line, whatever rules you bring in, there'll always be marginal cases. Now, I think that the current system is fairly all right, that the cases, the abuses we saw were really not the rules as such causing them, but people making inappropriate decisions. They should have known that a wedding was a private social affair. It was not something they should claim. But nevertheless, if there is uncertainty and there is public disquiet, then there may be a case for changing the rules just to make the system look more transparent and clearer. But Tony Abbott is certainly showing no sign of being willing to do this at the moment.
And this week was Prime Minister Abbott's debut on the foreign stage. How has he been received and perceived, do you think?
I think he's had a good, well, indeed, couple of weeks of travel, because of course he had the Indonesian bilateral visit first, and now he's been at APEC and the East Asia Summit. The conferences provide a good chance to meet a whole lot of leaders in the margins of the actual summits. That's been very useful for him. It's his introduction to a number of these leaders. It's a good way of becoming familiar not only with the people but also the issues. He was obviously disappointed that he didn't have a chance to meet the US President, but Barack Obama had other responsibilities and didn't attend these summits. But I think that Tony Abbott would be pretty happy with what he's managed to achieve in the last couple of weeks.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And it's been a very interesting week in politics this week. It'd be interesting to see what happens with the Labor leadership over the weekend as well. But you can find out more about that next week. Thank you very much.